Okay, we're looking at question 2, and it just asks us to strengthen the argument. So we should understand that when we think about strengthening the arguments, we can be talking about justifications, assumptions, or just something that strengthens it, okay? And assumptions are required, justifications are enough to absolutely prove it's the smoking gun of the argument. Strengthening it can be both of those, but it can also be just something that indicates, if we're talking about a robber, a bank robber, we're like, you know what, man, I found a crowbar in that guy's, the trunk of his car at midnight when he just got home. And the robbery occurred at 11:30. It's kind of like some evidence. Is it a requirement? Does it prove it? No, but it's just enough to say, you know what, he might have done that. So that's kind of what we're looking for here, okay? All right, so here's the situation, man. It's the advertising game. I mean, and I hate it. By the way, I hate advertising. I would prefer just to find things on my own because advertising sucks, by the way. But here we go. Picture this. You're in the store and all of a sudden, bam, just over the airwaves, like they come out with this advertisement. And, if by this strange twist of fate, you're within 40 minutes of hitting that checkout line, you as a group of people, as a group of consumers in that store, you guys are significantly, not just more likely, significantly more likely to buy the product. So, you know what, man, if you are bald and they are selling perm hair products, I don't really know what those are. I have no idea, even though I could be balding. Or maybe that's why I don't know. But, if they're selling perm products and you're in the line and you hear it, you're like, you know what, I think I need some perm products, okay? And so the conclusion is bam, this advertising, it's effective, Okay, so we just need to strengthen that idea. We need to find, something that's an indication that, you know what, it is effective. Okay, let's start with A. During the study, for most of the advertisements, more people went through the checkout lines after they were aired than before they were aired. Well, that does something that's kind of strange. It can tend, well, you know what? It really doesn't do anything because what it says is you were significantly more likely to buy. So the whole numbers, if we had 20 people beforehand and 100 people after, it doesn't really do anything if you're more likely, if it's more likely and proportional. So the overall numbers don't really matter in that situation. I wanted to say it's kind of weird, it would weaken the argument that you had less people beforehand, but they're talking about the likelihood of you purchasing. So the overall numbers don't matter. It doesn't do anything to the argument. Let's pop down to C. Many of the consumers reported that they typically bought at least one of the advertised products every time they shopped at the store. Well, what that does is that gives us an alternative reason other than the advertisement. We just got people that are like, when they hear it, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna buy. I've already planned to buy it. I'm gonna buy it. So that doesn't really do anything to the argument. Now, let's think about that for a minute, though. And this is where I started to have some problems. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is it effective? Because if they didn't hear it, they wouldn't be buying it. So if they do hear it, even though they had planned on buying it, you know what? That does strengthen it. I'm like, okay, all right. B is probably the answer. C is probably the answer. Let's go down to D. Many of the consumers who bought an advertised product and who reached the checkout line within 40 minutes of the advertisement's airings reported they couldn't even remember the advertisement. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, gee, I don't know, subliminal advertising? They don't even remember, but they're buying. So it looks like D is the answer as well. So I'm kind of in a conundrum. I'm like, okay, is it C? Is it D? Then I go down to E, and I'm like, many of the consumers who bought an advertised product reported that they buy that product only occasionally. So if they only buy it occasionally, and then they go in there and they're significantly more likely to buy it, well, that works too. And then let's look at B. I'm like, oh, I don't even know now. I've got 3 answer choices right now that in some way, shape, or form seem to make sense of being the answer. And I look at B, a large proportion of the consumers who bought a product shortly after the airing of the advertisement reported that they had not gone to the store intending to buy the product. Well, geez Louise, this is all the same thing, right? There's 4 answer choices that are really kind of saying the exact same thing. And then, like a light bulb that hits, what is the difference between B and C, D, and E? A large proportion, significantly more likely. That means a large proportion is significantly more likely on a holistic level. C, D, and E are talking about many. What the heck? Many in our real world thinking, we're like, well, many people, many is a lot, right? Well, in the LSAT world, many is like, it's at a minimum more than few. A few is 3, so many is 4. So many, the problem with this is they're not talking about enough people here to prove to us that this advertisement is effective. And I digress in using the term prove. Prove is more of a justification. But they're not using, many is not a big enough pool for us to really say, to strengthen the notion. Like if we had 1,000 people go through the line and 4 of them came up and said, you know, I bought it, I just couldn't even remember hearing it. Would that strengthen it? No, but what B does is it talks about a large proportion. A large proportion of these people, you know, they walk in, they're like, you know what, I'm getting bananas. How did I end up with the perm cream? I don't know, man. I didn't intend upon buying it. So B is the correct answer. So it's the difference between many and proportion, large proportion, okay?